Okay, so I think I started with the changing and exiting out of a sketch. So if I realize I'm in inches and I look down and see that the sketch is currently in millimeters, if I change that, that will kick me out of the sketch. If I exit the sketch or accept and or exit the sketch, usually it's going to be an accept because exit will ask you if you want to discard the changes. Or we come up and we do a rebuild. So if I accept that and I can see the sketch, we can double click and I could change dimensions. And so maybe I want this to be 50 by 50. Well, nothing really changed because I need to rebuild. Okay, and once I hit the rebuild, that tells it to update the geometry. Well, I want to add some more geometry, so we can right click on the sketch and edit sketch. And that's going to be probably the better, more convenient. We can also highlight one of the pieces of geometry and go back to the sketch, and that will let us in. Or you can right click on one of the pieces of geometry and edit sketch. But if you're just in the open area and haven't picked anything to sketch on, it's just going to ask you where you want to sketch. All right, so I'm moving around on the screen, and we need to look at some of the display and movements. So most of this is occurring on the middle mouse wheel. So when I pick, I'm just using the left mouse button, and the right click is going to give me the in context depending on what I'm doing, where we're at. These will change according to what we need. The center of the zoom is at the cursor, so if I chase that point in or out, and not sure how I got into the rotate symbol, but if I zoom in, zoom out, I'm just moving the scroll wheel up and back. And again, if you're more used to the AutoCAD direction of the scroll wheel, you can come over to the options and into view and reverse the mouse wheel direction. Right? If we hold down the control, it's basically going to be the same as pan. And if we hold down the Alt, it's rotating about the view. And then if we just hold down the right mouse button, or sorry, the middle mouse button, and move the mouse, then we will get that rotate in 3D. Our control keys then are Control 1 will take you to the front, Control 2 will take you to the back, Control 3 will go left, Control 4 will go to the right, 5 to the top, 6 to the bottom, 7 isometric, and 8 normal 2. If nothing's selected and it can't figure out normal 2, well, it just doesn't do anything. You can also hit the space bar and you will, as you hover over top of those, see the control buttons that are available with each of the views, the isometric, and then there's also dimetric, trimetric, and the normal 2. And then if you want to use the cube, you can pick which face, which view you want to be working from. All right, so I'm going to go into, let's just go ahead and hide that one for now. And I'm going to go into a new sketch. And we're going to use the rectangle tool. And I want to zoom up just a little bit. So corner rectangle, if I do the pull down, we're going to see the center rectangle, 3-point corner rectangle, 3-point center rectangle, and the parallelogram. So typically we're going to do corner rectangle, so one of the corners will be attached to the origin. I'm looking for that little yellow box, and because my numeric input is on, I will go ahead and enter the value and hit enter. And we'll go 75, and when it's done, it completes, and I'll just get out of the rectangle. It will keep drawing rectangles until I've drawn enough. And what any of these tools are doing is it's applying the relation. So it has the coincident, it has the vertical, And let's go ahead and zoom up on those, see them a little bit better. All right, so coincident to the origin and vertical. So if I don't have that coincident, we'll drag in, let's just do a center rectangle so you can see the difference. If I drag those out, and I'm not going to put a value on it, but those can move, and this sketch will not go defined until I either put a dimension from some existing geometry or dimension from the origin. Control Z will undo the resize. Control Z will do the rebuild. So one of the things that I focus on, that I obsess on, are little blue dots. So if an endpoint or a line is in blue, that's something that we want to address and look at. So let's delete that one out real quick. And I'll go back into a line and notice that we had the shaded sketch contours. And we'll get those again. If I bring that out horizontal, but I miss making the connection, all right, I can get pretty close. I can get really close. And it may not be apparent, and that little blue dot is the only real indication that you have not quite completed. The other one that since it did not shade in the box, then you know that you have a gap. Also, if it overruns and you end up with a tail, then that will also cause it to not go to shaded. All right, and so this is going to give us those pieces of information in building our geometry. All right, so this is going to be a fast way to generate the box. Just like I deleted the previous relation, or deleted the line, it deleted its relation. When I reapplied it, it got the horizontal back. I can delete a relation here for the vertical, and that's going to allow me to make an angle. So in the process of doing our dimension, if I have non-parallel lines, then picking between those, you will see an angle. So 70 degrees. And even if you thought you drew it very close to parallel, very close to perpendicular, I mean, you got the relations in there the way you want it. If it's off by just a little bit, when you pick it and it returns an angle, you know you're not horizontal on one of those objects. So that becomes another debug tool that you can go back and say, oh, I really didn't want that to be an angle. So for instance, probably the better way to illustrate it is to pick between the two objects, and it comes out with an angle, and I say, no, that was supposed to be 75 millimeters or whatever I was going to give it. Then we can come back over, pick on our object, and apply the vertical. So these relations, dimension also being a relation, is going to give us a lot of power to define these without having to put dimensions on every object.